Hola, ¿cómo estás? Yo estoy muy bien porque hoy es un día muy importante. Vamos a aprender algo muy importante. We're going to learn something really important today. I'm going to teach you today how to start conjugating verbs. And that may not seem too exciting initially, but conjugating verbs is how we communicate. So it's going to help us be able to talk about what different people do. And again, it's going to be one of the most important skills we learn to do because we're going to learn a lot of different verbs this year, and we want to be able to use them to express and to communicate different actions. So on my screen, I have a copy of some notes. Hopefully you've already downloaded this and put it into your Google Drive. Once again, you can print these off and fill this off as we go through with a pen or a pencil, or you can type as you watch the video. But these notes are going to help us understand today the verb ser. So I'll be going back and forth between my slides and the notes here, but the notes you see, again, are going to be really important. So please take good notes today. So let's talk today about ser and subject pronouns. So last week we studied subject pronouns. Our first set this week was to review subject pronouns, and we're going to see today why those are so important. So we're going to talk about the verb ser, to be. And in Spanish, just like in English, verbs are conjugated. That means that verbs have different endings depending on who is doing the action, that subject pronoun, I or you or he or she, and when, the present, the future, and the past. And this year in Spanish 1, we're just going to focus on the present tense only. All right, so let me show you what I mean by that. There's an example on our screen, also on your notes. It says, I am from Fort Wayne. Well, in that sentence, there's a conjugated verb. The conjugated verb is I am. The subject is I because I'm doing the action, and it's in the present tense. Here's another example. He is from Fort Wayne. There's a conjugated verb there. That conjugated verb is he is. The subject is he, and again, it's in the present tense. And then we see something that says they are from Fort Wayne. Again, there's a conjugated verb there. That verb is they are. The subject is they, and again, it's in the present tense. So subjects, I, he, and they, we know those subject pronouns from the first set this week and also from our previous lesson. Today we're going to learn to say things like I am, he is, they are. We're going to learn to conjugate verbs. The verb we're talking about is the verb ser. And what ser means in English, it means to be. So for example, if I were to conjugate ser in English, I would say I am, you are, he is, she is. We're going to learn to do that today in Spanish. We use the verb ser to identify a person and to say where he or she is from. So think back to our question we learned during the first week. ¿De dónde eres? Soy de Indiana. ¿De dónde es él? Es de San Diego. All right, we learned how to ask that question. Well, that has to do with the verb ser. Now, ser has other uses as well, but we'll learn those later in the course. We're going to practice a lot with where people are from today using the verb ser. All right, ser is what we call an infinitive, and you're going to hear that word a lot. What an infinitive is it's something that means to something. Like it's the most basic form of a verb. So when I say to eat, that's an infinitive. To run, to swim, to text, to watch, those are all infinitives because they're to plus an action. So to run, to swim, to eat, any of those could be called, we would call those an infinitive. We need to learn, though, how do you conjugate ser so that you can express I am, you are, he is, she is, we are, all of you are, they are. We're going to learn to do that today because that's what's going to allow us to communicate better. All right, so up on your notes, but also on my screen, I have a list of our subject pronouns. That's how we're going to learn to conjugate today. So we know that yo means I. Well, how do I conjugate the verb ser to say I am? Well, in Spanish, it's soy. So way back a few weeks ago, we learned to say soy de Indiana. Well, soy means I am from Indiana. All right, soy is conjugated in the yo form or the I form. The tú form, we know that tú means you, so how do I go from I am to say you are? Well, tú eres. So when you learn the question, ¿de dónde eres?, it was asking where are you from. Eres is the tú form of the verb ser because it's conjugated in the you form. Next is él or ella. Él means he, ella means she. We know from our subject pronouns. How do I say he is or she is in Spanish? That's es. So for example, when we said de dónde es, where is he from? Es de, he is from a place. Now we also know there's another way to say you in Spanish that's the formal way. All right, we know that eres is the informal way. Es is the formal way. So you'll note that the él form, the ella form, and the usted form, they're all conjugated the same way, all right? But they mean separate things. Él es would mean he is. Ella es would mean she is. And usted es would mean you are, but it's the formal you, the you would use with somebody that you don't know. Tú eres also means you are, but that's the one you would use with a friend or maybe a little brother or sister. Now on the other side, these are our plural ones. Nosotros and nosotras we know means we. So how do I say we are? We would say somos. In Spain, we know they use the form called vosotros, and vosotros means all of you. And remember, it's informal. That is sois. So if I say vosotros sois because I'm in Spain, it would mean all of you are. Ellos or ellas we know means they, so that's son. And then ustedes is son as well, conjugated the same way. So ustedes would mean all of you are, okay? So those are my forms of the verb ser. Now, if I look at this next slide, there's what they mean in English, all right? Soy means I am. Eres means you are. Es means he is or she is. And then es also means you are the formal way. Somos means we are. Sois means you guys are or all of you are. Son means they are, or son can also mean you guys are or all of you are. And remember, when you use son as the ustedes form, it can be formal or informal in Latin America, but it's always going to be formal in Spain. So those are what the forms would mean in English. All right, so let's look at a couple of pictures here. Here's one. Hola, me llamo Señor Piper. Soy de Bluffton, Indiana. Why did I choose soy there? Well, soy is what's going along with I. All right, I am from Bluffton. So the only option I have is soy. Eres wouldn't work there because that would be talking about you. All right, here's another one. Hola, se llama Santiago. Es de Bloomington. Why did I go from soy to es? Well, because I'm talking about Santiago. I'm talking about where he is from. We got Santiago at a place down by Bloomington. So, él es de Bloomington. Hola, se llama Señora Piper. Es de Fort Wayne. So once again, I'm choosing es here because I'm saying she is from Fort Wayne. Well, when I have about the word ella goes along with es. So, es de Fort Wayne. All right. Let's try to see how we would make some of these negative. So in Spanish, when you want to make a statement negative, you just put the word no in front of the conjugated verb. No soy de Mexico. Soy de los Estados Unidos. I'm not from Mexico. I'm from the United States. So just put a no in front of it if you want to make it negative. And also, don't forget when writing questions, make sure you have an upside down question mark at the beginning and a question mark at the end. So for example, ¿de dónde son ellos? Where are they from? Ellos son de Cuba. They are from Cuba. So don't forget we have to have those question marks. All right, let's see if we can practice now. So I'm going to give you some sentences that actually have the forms of ser, but there's a subject pronoun missing. And we can look at this and we can tell what subject pronoun is missing. So let's see. We'll do this together. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it and see if you can fill in the missing subject pronoun. It says, eres de España. Well, if I wanted to put a subject pronoun in there, it would have to be the word tú, because eres, all right, is conjugated in the two forms. So those two go hand in hand. You are from Spain. Let's try another one. Soy de España. What subject pronoun would go there? Hopefully you said yo. All right, yo soy de España. Yo goes along with soy because that's the I form. I am from Spain. All right, somos de España. Which pronoun would go there? Hopefully you said nosotros or nosotras. Nosotros if it's a group of guys, or nosotros if it's a group of some guys and some girls, or if it's a group of all girls, nosotras. Why do I know that? Well, nosotros is along with the somos form. ¿Son de España? Well, this one actually could have three answers. It could be ellos, ellas, or ustedes. How do I know that? Well, these are the conjugations for these subject pronouns. So ellos son would mean they are from. Ellas son would mean they are from. That should be an A there, sorry. And then ustedes would mean all of you are from, all right? Now, let's switch it up a little bit. I'm going to give you the subject pronouns, but we're missing a form of the verb ser. Because right now, this just means she from Spain. If we don't put a verb in here, it's like saying again, she from Spain. And we know we need to say she is from Spain. So we have to put our form of the verb in here, which would be, hopefully you said es. Ella es de España. She is from Spain because ella goes along with es. All right. There's also a form of ser missing here. Tú de Ecuador. Because right now this just means you from Ecuador. We have to put that verb in there to say you are from Ecuador. And it should be eres. Tú eres de Ecuador. How did I know that? Well, tú and eres, they go together. Ustedes de Panama. Which form is missing? Because right now, all it says is all of you from Panama. And we're trying to say all of you are from Panama. So hopefully you're thinking of son. Ustedes son de Panama. All of you are from Panama. How did I know that? Well, we know from our chart, these two go together. Mis amigos y yo de Argentina. What do you think here? Hopefully you said somos, all right? Because anytime we have somebody and I, we know it's going to be the nosotros or the nosotras form, all right? Anytime it's like that y yo, it's got to be from that form. Let's try a couple more. Juan y Sara de Colombia. We need a verb in there because right now all that says is Juan and Sarah from Colombia. We've got to get that are from Colombia. So hopefully you said son. How did I know that? Well, we learned in the previous set that anytime you have two people, like Juan y Sara, it's always going to correspond to where they are from. So that's the ellos or the ellas form. How about this one? Ella de Arizona. Hopefully you said es de Arizona, because those two go together. Yo de Florida. Yo soy de Florida. I am from Florida. Enrique de El Salvador. Enrique es de El Salvador. Enrique is from El Salvador. And again, we have to have that S there. Without it, all this says is Enrique from El Salvador. We need the S to communicate Enrique is from El Salvador. Tú de Fort Wayne. Tú eres de Fort Wayne. Julia es de España. Very good. Sara y yo somos de Puerto Rico. Hopefully that's what you were thinking of. Sara y Juan son de Costa Rica. So again, hopefully that's what you were thinking of. All right, so that's our video, and hopefully you got some good notes to go over here. We're going to practice quite a bit with ser and subject pronouns because once we get more comfortable with this, it'll make everything else easier as we learn to conjugate other verbs. All right, hasta luego.